I am very pleased to welcome our guest speaker, personal brand consultant and career strategist, Johnathan Maltby. Welcome, Johnathan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Johnathan Maltby. I'm going to talk to you today about how to build and manage your brand and career as a contractor. A little bit about doing is I've been helping people accelerate their strategically. It's really helping them figure out their professional about that today. Also, as part of that, we also uncover unique strengths and skills, but also more importantly, what makes you valuable. And then we put you back together again and package and brand yourself with a clear brand message that communicates who you are, what you do, your core strengths and skills, and what makes you valuable. And also putting together a visibility strategy so that you can attract career opportunities. But really what it's about at the end of the day is helping people gain clarity in terms of not what they are, but also in terms of career direction as well. Career has kind of been maybe drifting a bit or kind of been on autopilot. This is about taking control. But at the end of the day, it's helping people gain greater professional self-awareness. Now, what I noticed is, and my background is actually in IT and technical recruitment as well as digital recruitment. So I used to work with many contractors over the period of the 4 or 5 years that I was working as a consultant. And what I noticed is that contractors tend to fall into two categories. The first category is those who kind of react to the job market. They're at the mercy of the job market. If the job market is doing well, then they get good gigs. If the job market is flat, well, then maybe the gigs aren't so good, or maybe they're further between. And a lot of times what I notice, a lot of these people who fell into this category tend to kind of drift around in their career. They bounce from gig to gig without really kind of finding that sense of purpose and fulfillment. And this often leads them to be frustrated. So that's the one category that many of the contractors that I dealt with fitted into. But then there was another one, and these were contractors who really kind of played in a very different space. What we noticed about them was that they were never short of work. There was very little time between their gigs, and in many cases, they'd already had their second contract lined up before the first one was finished, or the next one waiting in the wings. They were also very highly sought after because they were known for being experts in their field, and they have presence as well. And what I noticed is that they're doing jobs that they love. They're not forced to take a contract. They had a choice between taking contracts. And in many cases, that can actually work in their favor, especially when it comes to commanding higher rates as well. So how did they get there? Well, they achieved the status of playing in the second category because they had consciously and strategically designed the way that they wanted their career to be. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if we could all play in the category 2 space where those jobs come to you instead of you going, all right, my gig is now finished. I need to now start looking around. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the job boards and see what's there. So where do we start with getting into category 2? Well, it starts with becoming more professionally self-aware. And that, first of all, means defining your professional identity and then really creating a strong and powerful brand around it. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Cool. So to get us started, I want to use the analogy of a business here, just to kind of put some things into context. So I'll just go through this. Here we go. Okay, so a business usually starts off by identifying a problem or a challenge that businesses or individuals are experiencing. That's the first thing. What is the gap in the market? What's the problem that people are having? They then start creating a solution to that problem. And that solution could be either in a product or a service. The next thing they do is going, all right, well, we've got something here. We should probably come up with a business name, something to call ourselves, a professional label for our business, so to speak. And then they go, okay, well, now we've got these things kind of sorted out. We should probably figure out what our brand is going to be and how we're going to differentiate ourselves from our competition. And that means creating a unique selling proposition or USP. The next thing they go and need to do is they need to figure out who is our target market, who is in pain right now, who is experiencing these problems that our solution can fix. So they've got to find that target market. The next thing they do is they're going to go, right, we've got to start reaching out to this target market. We've got to raise our visibility. So they start building a campaign or marketing campaign with a compelling message and choosing the right kind of platforms to use. They also are very conscious of how they go about managing their reputation and the perception that they want people to have of them as a company, and also look after the financial management of their organization, the profit, the loss, what makes good business sense. So what am I doing? Where am I going with this? Well, if you want to grow your career as a contractor, what you need to do is you need to start thinking like a business. And this is going to help you get into that second category that we were talking about. Because at the end of the day, think about yourselves as the CEOs of your own career, because really you are in the business of you. So what is this whole thing called personal branding? How do we go about building it, in other words? So just to kind of put it in a nutshell, personal branding really is about creating a unique personal identity around your leading attributes. It's managing the perceptions of your audience in order to influence the way they feel about you. And I'm going to go into those three categories in a little bit more depth. So personal branding, as a contractor, the real crux of your contract business is you at the end of the day. Your business is an extension of you, your values, your skills, your expertise, your experience, but also your personality as well. It's that extension. So in order to develop your personal brand and stand out, you need to really think about what it is you want to stand out for. It's a very competitive market out there. So you want to be able to cut through the thousands of other voices of contractors there as well. And you do that by consciously and strategically developing your brand. Okay, because your business brand essentially is your personal brand, is the business brand of your contract, entity. Right, so how do we go about creating it? I've put together 3 steps to help you kind of start thinking about what your brand could be and how to strategically create it. And it all starts off by figuring out what your professional identity is. And often people come to me and they say, hey, Jonathan, I'd like you to help me build my brand, or I want to build my brand. And I would often go to them, okay, so what are we branding exactly? And this is where a lot of people kind of really get confused because they've never taken the time to go really deeply, introspectively to figure out, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and this is what makes it me valuable. They kind of have a vague idea, but nothing very specific or concrete. So the first part of figuring out your brand and how you're going to promote yourself and get known is defining your professional identity. That is the cornerstone, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more depth. The next thing you want to figure out is, okay, how am I going to create my brand story? How am I going to use that story? And your brand story is really the essence of who and what you are. And you're going to use that brand story in platforms such as the professional summary section of your CV, your About Me section of your LinkedIn profile, whether maybe you've got your own website, but also when somebody asks you that question, so tell me a bit about yourself, either in a networking event or maybe in an interview as well. Now, the third part of the step is understanding how you're going to become visible and then implementing a visibility strategy, because it's no point doing the first 2 steps and then no one gets to find out about it. You really got to put yourself out there. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So the first thing to figure out is what are you going to, is your professional identity. And I've put together kind of 6 categories to help you unpack yourself. And this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is really helping them unpack themselves, deconstruct themselves to figure out the core aspects of their brand. And it starts off by going, what am I going to call myself? Because just like a business has a name, you also want to think about what your name is going to be. Not the name you were given at birth, but what you're calling yourself. Think of it as your professional label. And the reason that you want to figure out what you want to label yourself is because the human brain loves to put things into categories. It's how we make sense of our world. When we see something, we want to know, hey, what is this exactly? Because when I know what it is, I know what to do with it, and I know how to determine its value. So you want to think about, what am I going to call myself? And it could be something simple like, I am an IT consultant, or I'm a senior project manager, or whatever that is, okay? Ideally, you want to label yourself before somebody else mislabels you. Cool. The next thing you want to do is you want to figure out, okay, so what do I exactly do? And there's two ways to think about this. The first way is to think about, what do I fill my day with? But more importantly, what does it produce? Okay. And the way to think about this is to put yourself in context. What problems do you love to solve for people or businesses, in other words? So think about it from that perspective. What problems can I help you solve? Now that we've got that in context, the next thing you want to figure out is, okay, within my field, I've got a breadth of skills and experience, but what is my depth? What could I be considered a specialist in? And the reason you want to specialize is because it's much easier to build a brand around a few core areas than trying to be everything to everybody. See, a specialist is specific. A generalist, or the jack of all trades, is more vague. And when I remember when I was working, hiring contractors, when people kind of position themselves as a jack of all trades, a generalist, I found it really difficult to get my head around them. And in many cases, they often missed out on those contracts. So you want to think about, what is my area of specialization? And it's usually around the problems that you can solve for organizations. The next part of it is going, okay, so what are my skills and abilities that allow me to solve those problems? Think of these as your specialist tools that you've used, the knowledge and the education and the expertise that you've acquired. Now, you have a huge breadth of skills, but that doesn't mean to say that you want to be known for all of them. I would say it's better to align those skills with the problems that you solve, because that helps to put them in context. The next thing you want to figure out is, what makes me valuable, and how can I amplify and demonstrate that value? And I think that value comes from outcomes. What can you help a business achieve? So think about it this way. They've got a problem, right? And that problem is causing them pain. What can you do to transform that pain into a gain? Because through that transformation, you demonstrate your value. And the final part of your professional identity is figuring out, what's my goal? Where do I want to go with this? And I think it's vitally important that you actually build your goal and be able to verbalize it as part of your brand message, because the more people that know about what you're trying to achieve, the more people there is that can help you get it. Okay, so the next part in the phase is really refining your brand and message. So you want to figure out, what do I want people to know about me? What is my core message that is going to carry my brand to my goal? Because your brand is really the vehicle that is going to help you achieve your career success. And then from that, you really want to start thinking about what I call some power statements that really capture the essence of your brand. And it's usually around those 6 core areas. Now, these statements need to sound like you. You need to use your own language, or it won't sound authentic. And this is where you get to put your personality into it, okay? So build your brand around a message around these following core areas. What problems do I love to fix for businesses? This is about now thinking about yourself as a specialist in fixing those problems. And this comes down to positioning. What is my market position? There we go. Position yourself as the solution. See, the biggest problem that a lot of times people do when they're going for jobs is they position themselves as a candidate. I'm another person with a CV, and there's nothing to differentiate me from the 10 other people outside the recruiter's door right now who are also vying for the same position. What you should be thinking about is, instead of positioning yourself as another potential bum on a seat in an organization, is it positioning yourself as the solution to that problem. This is going to be the thing that's going to differentiate you. The next thing you want to think about is, what is my capability in solving those problems? What am I a subject matter expert in? Because you really want to be building your brand around that. So this is about defining that area of expertise. And lastly, what outcomes can I help the organization achieve? And this establishes your value. So what you want to start doing is really creating some statements around these key areas that is eventually being incorporated into your overall in a number of different ways. Really communicate, promoting yourself. You're going to beat your chest, but also do it in a humble way. See, a lot of people are not comfortable with the concept of, self-promotion. But I always say it's much easier to self-promote if you don't make it about you, you make it about them. Put them at the center of your brand message, the organizations that you want to work for, the problems that they're having. Because it's not about what you do that's important. It's what you can do for them. And that makes it a lot easier to promote yourself. Okay, so what is your visibility strategy? To remain front of mind, you have to develop this. Remember, and this is one of my favorite sayings, when you become visible, you become valuable, okay? So personal brand must be seen over and over again until it imprints itself in the consciousness of its domain, that are repeated. The next thing you want to do is a secret to ultimately achieve top of mind awareness. So if a company goes, hey, we've got these problems, and someone says, does anybody know who's got expertise in helping us solve these problems? You want your brand ambassadors, people who know you, to go, yes, we need to get this person in because they're an expert in this. So how do you go about raising this visibility? Well, you need to, there's some great ways. Using LinkedIn is probably one of the easiest ways as a contractor. Not only having a great profile, but also creating content. Because by creating content, you're actually positioning yourself as that subject matter expert. More people are going to meetups now or attending brand. Great ways to do that. If you've got your own website, it's a great way to do that. If you're blogging, if you're creating video content, is another way to position yourself and amplify your voice. Okay, so how do you go about attracting contracts through your brand? And I'm going to give you some strategies to help you do that here. Okay, the first thing you want to do is start positioning yourself as a subject matter expert. Okay, you want to think about, what is my specialist area? And the reason that you want to do that is because specialists are deemed to be a high value asset for an organization. They also get paid more than a generalist. All right. The second thing you also want to be thinking about is, how can I demonstrate my knowledge and position myself as that subject matter expert? The easiest way is to create content. You see, all that knowledge that you have in your head that you apply to your contract roles every day, well, that has value. And the minute you start building some content around that, it's a great way to start positioning yourself as that subject matter expert. And what I'm telling you here is contribute towards your sector. Go to meetups, be on panels, get involved in speaking engagements, or write, okay? That knowledge has value, and it's a great way to attract those opportunities as well. The next thing you want to do is also strategically craft your bio, okay? This is your brand message. Think about what makes me unique. What are the problems I can solve? Get creative on social media, okay? You want to make sure that your brand message is across all the different platforms that you use. Platforms do your audience use? And the next thing is, be seen as that trusted resource, okay? You're not just there to provide a service. You're also there to be able to give that knowledge and contribute. And that often means going outside of your role to help you get known. And that means looking within the wider organization and the wider industry to build your name and brand there as well. Okay. Now, if you're not too kind of au fait with how to use social media, there's lots of people who can help you do that out there. Come and have a chat with me, and I can put you in touch with people who can help you, manage your social media. The other part that you really want to think about is that word of mouth. That is probably one of the most powerful tools that you can use and get other people to be your brand champion. Okay, encourage it. Tell people to spread the word about the problems that you can fix. Okay, and make sure also that the right people in the organizations that you're working in know about who you are and what you're doing. Okay, because sometimes other contractors will jump gig, and then they will see an opening and someone will say, hey, do you know anybody who can solve this problem? Yes, I work with this other contractor and they're really good at doing this as well. So that's how you kind of jump and have the next gig kind of lined up, and that's that word of mouth. Another cool thing that you can do is, every time you do a gig, or a contract, get a testimonial from the people that you've worked with as well. All right, I just want to talk a little bit about managing your reputation as a contractor as well. So personal branding is about managing how others see you. It's more than what you say about yourself. It's how you are perceived by others, what they see when they Google you, how you interact with them, and what kind of people you associate with, as well as the type of content that you create too. All of these things help to create your reputation as well as the perception that you want people to have of you. Now, remember this, when it comes to your brand, every action that you take and every interaction that you have with people, whether it be online or offline, and the words that you say, well, they do one of two things, okay? They either reinforce your brand or they detract from your brand. It can take years to build a good, strong brand, but a careless word, an interaction that's not favorable, all of these sort of things can actually destroy a brand literally in a matter of minutes. So if you're going to play in that category, that second category, you always need to be conscious of those three things. Okay, just some final thoughts. So as you start thinking about how am I going to play in that category too, start thinking about what do I want to be known for? That's the first thing. Define your area of specialization and find your niche and then dominate that niche. I've just realized my slides are slightly out of order. Define also how you want to be perceived. Be conscious of that. And at the end of the day, the strongest brand is the one that often wins the contract. And I remember this from my recruitment days. I would see people who came in that had a wealth of expertise and experience and education, but they couldn't communicate it. And often the role went to someone who maybe had less experience and expertise than the other person, but boy, could they talk about it. Could they demonstrate that value? Could they really sell themselves? All right, remember, your personal brand could literally mean the difference between having an ordinary career or one that is truly epic. So before we go into the Q&A, I just want to kind of talk about some of the things that I do and how, if you're interested in having a conversation, to maybe see how you could start moving into that category. Okay, so if you're looking to move into that second category, where those jobs come and find you, where you're being sought after, okay, that next level space, if you're wanting to gain a greater understanding of your capabilities and your value, to better position yourself in the market, and to better and more confidently sell yourself and build your brand to attract those career opportunities, then it's a very simple thing that you need to do. Just get in contact with me. I'm going to leave my contact details up in a moment. But it always starts off with usually a 45-minute chat. You're under no obligation to do anything afterwards if you don't feel it's right for you, and there's no charge for that initial. I'm calling it virtual coffees, and I've been having a lot of those over the last few months during this lockdown period. And it's basically just having a chat to figure out, hey, where are you at? Where do you want to go? What are your challenges that you're having? And let's see if my services are right for you. And I run a number of different services, including kind of personal branding packages. Cool, that's me. I know I went like a bit of a freight train there, but happy to open it up and have a chat. Now I'm going to make these slides available. I'm going to send them to Noam and Tim. So if you want to get hold of these slides, I'll send it to them as a PDF. Cool.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Johnathan. That was superb. I think we can all, whatever position we're in, whoever we are, wherever we are, we can all gain a lot of value from what you just said.
All right, we've got one from Georgia. I usually have a lot of recruiters reach out to me saying we wanted to talk about this role before anyone else did because we know you will not last very long waiting in the market, but the actual application does not amount to anything. Yeah, look, that's sometimes the nature of the beast with recruitment. In many cases, what happens is a company will make noises that they may land a big contract or get a new piece of work, and they need to have the people ready to go in case they do land that contract. So what they do is they go out to the recruiters and they say, right, we're potentially going to land this gig with this new client or whatever that is. You need to start assembling a team, because there's nothing worse than landing the contract and not having the resources to do this. So I guess in many cases, sometimes the role doesn't go to anything because either the recruiter jumped the gun, they were a bit gung-ho and they decided, hey, I'm going to build this pipeline now and have all these people primed and ready. And then nothing happens, or maybe the piece of work that didn't come through, or it got cancelled. One of the key things is to actually ask, is this a live job right now? And when are they looking at kicking things off? So this is about really talking to the recruiter and asking them, you know, is this live, or is this just an expression of interest right now? When this project, so that can help you kind of navigate. Comes to that sometimes, you know, I remember as a recruiter, you'd get all the candidates ready to go, you'd get the people ready, and HR would walk downstairs and say, sorry, resources been pulled that job, it's no longer available. So that's, you know, 70% there. It is required to have a LinkedIn profile to secure more gigs. Absolutely. If you're not visible and on some of the biggest platforms, then you're not going to be found. When I was in recruitment, I would spend at least 2 hours a day on LinkedIn looking for people, always. And I'd always be looking for the people who I could really see who they were, what they did, the value that they could bring to an organization, their areas of expertise. In other words, they had a really, really good brand story. And I would often reach out to those people on LinkedIn and say, hey, I don't know if you're between gigs right now or you're looking at that, lining that next one up, but you look really good. I want to have a chat with you. And if I could reach out to someone on LinkedIn and find someone with the least amount of effort, then I would never advertise a job. The last thing I wanted to do was advertise a job, because then I would just get flooded with CVs. So if you're not on LinkedIn, if you're not using social media to promote yourself, then I would say you're seriously missing out on what could be some awesome jobs that kind of live in that hidden job market, the ones that are not advertised.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Jonathan. I know a lot of recruiters who pretty much run their entire business through LinkedIn contacts. So yeah, if you're not on LinkedIn, definitely get on there. I'm happy to say it is a proper professional networking space. So there's not too many other shared details, although obviously with COVID, it's been a bit more opened up to the human side of things, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, absolutely. If you're not on LinkedIn, get yourself a LinkedIn profile, start building your networks, and find get the benefits, basically, because yeah, it will massively enhance your social standing.
And that's one of the things that we can talk about. And if you wanted to have that, 45-minute no obligation chat, is let's have a look at your LinkedIn profile. Let's see, what's good, what's missing. Maybe you're underselling yourself, and that's what I find that the bulk of people do, is they undersell themselves. Is because they don't know the full range of their capability, and they don't know what value they can bring. And so they often end up on contract rates, which are way below what they really should be on. They've undersold themselves.
Just a quick answer to Sean there, who missed the first 20 minutes. So yes, the recording will be available. Sean, I'll make sure this gets sent out to you so you can get the full benefit of all the gold that Jonathan's been spilling forth, which has been excellent. Another one, George has come back. Another thing that happens to me, I get pinged on LinkedIn. Can you highlight your seniority on LinkedIn? Then someone else will ping, say your seniority is a bit too much. So basically saying that they've got too much experience.
Okay, so there's a couple of things happening there. It's all about defining the space that you want to play in. What kind of band of expertise that you have, because if you're getting knocked back and saying you're too senior, well, that means you're pitching yourself at the wrong level. You want to be pitching yourself at the right level. So if they're looking for a senior role, you're pitching yourself as a senior. If you're a mid-level, pitch yourself as a mid-level. So and it all comes really down to that pitching. Sometimes it's okay to pitch yourself high, because so many times people pitch themselves too low. And look, you're going to get people who are eventually going to say, sorry, you're you may be too senior for this particular role if they've pinged you on LinkedIn. And that really comes down to the story that you tell, because you don't want them reaching out to you and then you finding out, no, I'm not right for that role because, you know, the level is wrong. You want them to be able to see exactly the space that you play in and the level that you are at in your statement that you create, and the way you tell your story and your narrative of your career as well. And that really comes down to brand message. And that's really big. You want them to walk away from reading your LinkedIn profile going, I know exactly what space they play in. I know their level of expertise. They are absolutely specific in these key areas. And that might start to avoid some of those problems that you're encountering there, George.
And I noticed we've got quite a few questions coming through the Q&A channel here. So first up from Trent. How do you find the balance point of helping people by polishing the brand content too much that the consultant doesn't stack up with nicely polished LinkedIn website, etc.?
So when you say polished too much, if you polish too much, that can often be that it's not coming across as authentic. You're polished, but maybe it just looks like polish on the surface. I would say a good brand message is where you are just you. You're not trying to create an image of yourself. You're trying to create a reflection, a true, genuine, authentic representation of yourself. And there's certain ways that you can do that. Polished, I think you can be polished, but you can make your brand message about the value that you can bring, and putting your ideal target company or client in the center of your brand message, and then weaving your brand message around them. I don't think there is too much of a polished. I don't think you can ever be too polished, but you want to be using words that sound authentically like you. I always think a good LinkedIn profile, for example, and a good brand is one that doesn't demonstrate how well you can speak the English language. I always think, you know, people relate to people when they're just kind of speaking as if we were having a conversation. Keep it professional, but keep it, you know, conversational as well. As if we were two mates at a pub having a beer, but still keep it professional. And I think that builds more bridges in terms of your brand message.
I think writing it yourself is a very basic one, but one that a lot of people don't seem to understand as well.
Yeah. When I work with my clients, what we do is we unpack them, we get all the components of their brand out, and then we start putting them back together again. Now, in many cases, we put them back together. We've got a nice scaffold for a brand message, but it doesn't quite sound like them. They go, yeah, it's me, but it just sounds a bit boring and bland. And I said, now the next thing is we've got to inject the personality. So now we've got the scaffolding. Think of it like the framework for your house, and your personality is the paintings, the curtains, the carpets, all the things that are you, the paint, the color on the wall. Think about it as that way.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jonathan. There's one from Alvin, long-time contact of mine. John, in terms of creating content, will it serve to add one's credential or work against if we reshare or like someone's post, assuming the articles or posts are relevant to my skills?
You know what? If someone reshared your post, you kind of feel happy. You think, my post was worthy of it being shared. Wow, that's a nice pat on the back for me. I think it's about giving. And if you give, you gain as well. The more you give, the more you will attract great opportunities. And that's kind of my philosophy around that. So sharing and commenting on other people's posts is a sense of giving, but it's also contributing. So whether you agree with someone's post or you disagree with someone's post, people want interaction. And when you interact, you're actually raising your profile because your name is coming up on that thread. So liking, yeah, you can like, but people don't really look at likes, but they look at content. So if you like a bit of an article, throw your 2 cents worth in it. I see some people and I don't necessarily agree with this tactic. I call it post hijacking, where someone will do a post and then someone will comment on that post and just write a huge amount. Really what it is, it's kind of a sales spin for themselves. I don't necessarily agree with that tactic because you are hijacking that person's post, but I think it's good to be able to post, and share it as well. But I think it's good to post your 2 cents in your opinion, because it's your opinion that can actually help differentiate you. Because someone goes, yes, I like what this person has to say. They're on the same page as me. I want to connect with this person. I want to see what they're all about as well. So yeah, by all means, comment, share, like other people's posts as well.
Yeah, it goes back to that managing the perception of others of you. So
that's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Alvin. Adrian, thanks for popping in today. How can you mitigate damage to your brand if you've been involved in a really poor project?
Oh, okay. And this happens all the time. I mean, look, it's inevitable. You're never going to have a flawless track career as a contractor. There are going to be times where you just want to walk away from a project that just goes, geez, that was hell. And you're probably not the only one walking away from that. We can't all be perfect as long as we learn. Now, your brand story, it's not everything about you. It's the curated version of you. So you don't have to put every gig that you've had in there, okay? You can sometimes highlight the ones that you enjoyed or that you felt was a clear demonstration of your expertise. So there's sometimes that we can leave out some of them there, or just don't put that much information in there. And I remember interviewing with people, and I'm like saying, well, what happened in this particular role here? And they would have gone, okay, well, it wasn't such a good one. There were some areas that weren't great. And as long as you don't bag that place or put them down, that's, you can actually kind of mitigate that as well. But remember, it's also what you want people to have or know of you. And sometimes it's good to be honest, but sometimes it's good to also curate that story as well. You don't have to display everything and have everything in front of somebody. It's a case of going, all right, I want people to think this about me and I want to be attracted to these roles. So what about my skills and experience that I'm going to cherry pick from to create that perception?
So it's not about the outcome, but the journey.
That's it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Gabrielle, where do you sit with LinkedIn profile photo style? There's been some noise about less formal profile pic being better than a very formal corporate style.
That's a great one. They say, what's it? Dress for the role you want, not the role you have. That's really interesting. Okay, here's the thing. It's human nature to judge a book by its cover. It's usually the first thing that people see when they open up your LinkedIn profile, or they've done a search and your photos are, your profile's coming up with a lot of other people as well. So people do judge a book by its cover. You want to make sure that your cover is a good one. I think it's good to have some good headshots done. If you work in a professional environment, then you want to create that perception that you are professional as well. A lot of times people use LinkedIn and they put their photograph up as an afterthought. They go back into their social media, their Instagram, their Facebook, or something on their computer and go, yeah, that's all right. I'm gonna cut half that other person out and I'm gonna stick that on there. And maybe there's a couple of wine glasses in the back there because we had a really good night out. But at least I'm smiling in this photo. Think about what perception is that photo going to create. In terms of formality, I always think a good head and shoulders is a good shot. So if you work in an environment where it's smart casual, dress smart casual. If you work in an environment that wears suit and tie, wear a suit and tie, because you're going to be relatable to those people in those organizations who are looking to hire. The thing that I find is that people who want to go for smart casual roles, but put a suit on, that could be a little bit, not intimidating, but it creates the perception like this person might not fit in here. We're not as formal as that in our environment. So, maybe have a look at people who work in that organization already. Have a look at how their photos on their LinkedIn profile is as well. I'm talking to people right now, and I've got people in my network who specialize in personal brand photos for LinkedIn profiles, and they can range in price from anywhere from $300 all the way up to over $1,000, where they'll give you like 25 photos that you can use across all of your social media as well. So I hope that answers that question. Also, quickly, smile in your photo. It's not a mugshot. You're not going to prison. I always say, if you smile and people can see that smile in your eyes, we have this human connection there. They're going, this person looks nice and friendly and approachable. Okay, I'm going to reach out to this person. Or, wow, they look good. They look interesting. smile in your photo, you know, and get someone to take at least maybe 10 photos of you if you don't want to go and pay for a service. Try some different outfits on, try some different backgrounds, and then choose the best out of the team.
So it's got to be authentically you, is what you're trying to say.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Bring your best self. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Johnathan. And one from Patricia. How much time do I need to spend in social media to be visible?
Ooh. I guess it depends on the outcome that you want and the space that you want to play in. If you want to be seen as the dominant force in your industry, then you really want to be amplifying your voice across numerous channels. However, you don't want to create a lot of noise at the same time. I've got people in my network that I've not disconnected from, but unfollowed because they were just posting the most inane rubbish every single day just for the sake of posting and visibility, would actually damage their brand. If you've got, I would say post if you've got something good to say, don't post for the sake of posting. Okay, so sometimes maybe once, I know people who post once a fortnight, and it depends, you know, are you going to create a long article and post that? Or are you going to do short, you know, 30-second videos? I would say probably a minimum of maybe once a week is good. I know other people, social media strategists, who say post at least 3 times a week. But again, you don't want to make it so onerous for yourself where you feel like, oh, I have to post. Post if you've got something to say.
So quality over quantity.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced, those of us on LinkedIn, I think we've all experienced those overwhelming content creators who fill up the feed. But, you know, some of it is valuable. So
it's just saturated right now. And I remember when COVID first hit and people were like, okay, I've got all this extra time on my hands. I'm just going to amplify my brand and I'm going to post. And they were just posting 2-3 times a day. And, you know, some of the stuff that I saw, I was just shaking my head going, you're just posting the most basic of stuff. You're like teaching people how to suck eggs. Like, one of the most important things about your CV is your name. Don't forget to put your name on your CV. And that's my post for today. It's like, my God, come on. You could do better than that.
Yeah, I think we need better quality than that. But yeah, you know, if you've got something worth saying, then definitely say it. Don't wait. That's the key. That's fantastic. I think that is just thanks back from Alvin there. Thanks, Alvin, for jumping in today. That is everything with regards to questions. So thank you very, very much today for coming along, Johnathan, because that has been a fantastic session. So is there a link to the services offered? Yes, we'll be pushing out Johnathan's contact details so that you can contact him directly, and obviously you can contact Encore via our website, and we'll be happy to discuss our services as well.
Right.
But yeah, thanks again, Johnathan. That's probably one of the.
Me to yourself and Nuam as well. It's a pleasure. Loved it.
That's great. So yeah, we'll be.
Everybody. There were great questions.
Great interactivity. It's nice to see people joining in. So we'll be running our next session. We'll be doing a special Christmas catch-up. More details will be coming out as to the date and time. We'll push that out definitely on LinkedIn. And we hope to see you all there. So with that, thank you very much, Johnathan. And thanks to all the attendees. And we'll speak to you all soon. Take care.
Thanks a lot.